Hamas has released the first batch of hostages held captive in Gaza as part of a 4-day truce. 13 Israelis, including 4 children and 6 women in their 70s and 80s. Another 12 were citizens of Thailand. The International Committee of the Red Cross transported the hostages through Gaza's Rafah border crossing with Egypt. The IDF later confirmed they had safely arrived on Israeli territory. Some 39 Palestinians, including 15 teenagers, were released from Israeli prisons as part of the exchange. Ahead of their release, Israeli forces used tear gas to disperse crowds forming outside the prison. The temporary truce will allow much-needed aid to flow into the Gaza Strip. Since the war began, Israel has barred all imports into Gaza except for a trickle of supplies from Egypt. And hospitals, water systems, bakeries, and shelters have struggled to keep generators running, forcing the UN to warn that people could starve amid food shortages.
Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister of Spain, and Alexander De Croo, the Prime Minister of Belgium, have together met Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi for talks in Cairo. Whilst there, both European leaders deplored Israel's killings of thousands of civilians in Gaza.
The indiscriminate killing of innocent civilians, including thousands of boys and girls, are completely unacceptable. Violence will only lead to more violence.
The destruction of Gaza is unacceptable. We cannot accept that a society is being destroyed the way it is being destroyed.
In response, Israel reprimanded the ambassadors of both countries. Gaza's Hamas government estimates that Israel has killed around 15,000 people, 2/3 of them women and children. Israel says Hamas has killed around 1,200 people, almost all of them Israelis, and most of them civilians.
EU equality ministers have been trying to agree on definitions of consent in talks on a future directive on violence against women. The informal meeting in Pamplona was part of final phase negotiations on the wording of the EU law, which would establish that any penetration without consent is rape. Spain's delegates said new kinds of violence against women were emerging.
La violencia contra las mujeres constituye una de las violaciones de derechos humanos más graves y habituales de cuantas se cometen en nuestra sociedad. La violencia sexual, la trata de mujeres, la violencia en el ámbito de la pareja o expareja, el matrimonio forzado o la mutilación genital femenina, entre otras, son manifestaciones de la violencia que se ejerce contra las mujeres por el simple hecho de ser mujeres.
That message was reinforced to the EU's decision-makers by a demonstration against domestic violence in Brussels on Friday. Similar events are planned to take place around the world on Saturday. Fresh from his triumph in the Netherlands' general election, far-right leader Geert Wilders has begun talks with other parties on forming a coalition. He's in pole position to emerge as prime minister after his Party for Freedom won most seats. But his hopes have been hit by the main center-right bloc's leader's announcement that it won't join a government led by Wilders.
Mijn gevoel na de verkiezingen is met zoveel zetels, 37 zetels, is verantwoordelijkheid is groot. En als je dan ziet dat een andere partij die ook iets heeft verloren, maar die verantwoordelijkheid niet wil nemen, wat mag, dan vind ik dat heel erg teleurstellend.
The victory of the anti-Islam, anti-immigration party has been greeted with dismay by the left and groups representing asylum seekers. In Utrecht, more than 1,000 people took part in a demonstration of support for migrants ahead of the beginning of the coalition talks. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in Strasbourg. Everywhere you go, there are traditional chalets as the city's Christmas market comes to town. It is Europe's largest Christmas market, with some 2.8 million visitors last year, and everyone is in the festive mood. City center hotels are at 90% occupancy, and December is often the best month of the year for restaurants. Christmas revelers will be able to enjoy the market until December 24th, and its doors will be open from 11:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., as even Santa's friends need their nights off.